friends. Welcome back.
Hello.
How are you? How was it? How was your week?
Pretty good overall. Overall, I would say better week.
Good. I'm glad. It
How about you?
was a good week. Busy and, the chaos of having four children. But it was a good week. I can't complain. Yeah. How was your guys' week? Welcome back. We were talking about what to, planning ahead for this week, what we felt like we wanted to talk about this week, and we felt like, it's getting to the point where,
Christmas is kind of
Christmas is
all the details are getting buttoned up.
Yeah,
Just waiting
exactly.
for the day, and
Exactly. And so it's really shifting that focus to the end of year. And that's kind of our natural rhythm. And so we said that's what we were going to talk about today was just, this is kind of part one of a two-part series of preparing for the new year. So part one is
the sweater. I'm like
part-
sweating. That's all I can think
Yes,
about right
ladies
now.
in black today. But part one is going to be about pausing and reflecting. So before we dive too far into that, I am Katie, and I am the daughter of the mother-daughter rustic girl duo.
And I am Patty, and I'm the mother of the mother-daughter duo.
Yeah. So welcome. We're so glad you're joining us. If it's the first time or you've been here for a long time, say hello in the comments. Let us know how you're doing this time.
I hope you have a
cup
of something.
Grab a cup, join us. Yeah. So, thinking towards the end of the year, I think it's really about reflecting on how this year went, and then how do we envision next year going. Obviously we can't control things, but kind of what's our thoughts. And so I think step one is always pausing and reflecting. And it's, we kind of felt like it was kind of like three main areas. And so the first one being like your daily living and your possessions. This is a really good time of year to just reflect on what routines have served you well this year, what commitments have fit your goals, and what ones maybe aren't.
Right. Just to interject, I pocket here so I didn't forget, and then I put my thing off. I listened to a podcast this week.
Yeah.
Another one. And she was talking about, she had like 6 steps to making next year the best year ever. And it was actually really good. It was Mel Robbins, if you follow her at all. I don't super follow her, but she pops up every now and then. Yeah. But what really caught my attention, and I think is a helping point for this, is she said to grab your phone, and if you have a calendar, if you keep a calendar, and go back to the first of the year, and just looking at your camera roll, where you were at, what you were doing.
Calendar or camera roll?
Your camera roll, but also having your calendar there too, because your calendar is going to show you things like, you can look back, you might see that, oh my gosh, I totally overbooked myself in January at a time, and so, but the camera roll I thought was so good, because she said that's as you ask yourself these questions, as you reflect on that year, it's going to bring up memories of things that were good and bad. You're going to remember places, and I just thought that was like a really helpful tip for reflecting, because it can feel daunting when you sit down and go, okay, I'm going to reflect on the past year, and you might you might hit on a few things, but I thought that was like a really good piece of advice.
Yeah, I think
we all have them.
Too many of them, right? The digital age, like that's the problem. Too many pictures, but it would be a good way to reflect and remind. But yeah, I think it's right on par with like that. Just thinking about like, maybe.
Did I totally derail you?
No, I woke up with a headache, and so, no, I think it's just thinking about like, routines that are serving you well, or maybe not. Maybe you're a night owl and you tried really hard to be a morning person, and you're just not, and you fought it all year, and maybe recognizing that that's just not who you are, or maybe recognizing that, I get up every morning and I get my coffee, and I read my Bible, or I journal, or whatever, like, and these rhythms did serve me well. So I think that's a good, and then, that comes to like, the things I have, are they serving me well? I think about like, simple things like counter space in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's an appliance that you used a lot earlier in the year, but you found in the last 6 months you haven't used it. So maybe it's time to retire that one and put it, somewhere less accessible because it doesn't need to clutter up your kitchen.
Right.
Or there's an appliance that you are using now that is still put away, so we're going to shuffle. Yeah.
Have a big hassle getting it out every time, and you find yourself not wanting to do it because it's a big, yeah.
Exactly. So I think thinking about, and then are there possessions that you have that you just don't need anymore? So, is it an overabundance of clothing? Is it an overabundance of toys? Or, kitchen? Just this morning I was like, I'm going to go through my utensil drawer. And like, you realize somehow we've accumulated like 6 like spoons, like serving spoons.
Mm-hmm.
When am I going to need 6 serving spoons? I don't, but I have a drawer full of them, and it's a pain to get anything we do need and find it because it's just cluttered. And so I think it's just be intentional about purging and purifying.
Well, and I think it's interesting that, I think, right, end of the year is kind of a natural thing, looking ahead and organizing your possessions, starting the year off on a right foot. And it's so interesting to me that, and I never questioned it until the last few years, is I looked forward to it. Is like, as soon as Christmas, Christmas is not even over, and like Target is rolling out like 500,000 bins, new bins to organize your life.
Yeah.
And because, we have all this new influx of stuff that comes in at Christmas.
We got to organize it. We got to make it all
fit. Yeah, we got to organize it. And like, when in reality, that's a whole nother topic. I just think we're being sold a bill of goods on that. But
what would make our life easier and simpler is getting rid of, not organizing.
Yes, instead of, and maybe new organization bins are in order.
But I think the first step is.
But yeah, the first step is going through, and I think culling and maybe seeing, especially if you find, I can remember I used to have like, I don't know, when I pulled it all out, when we were downsizing, I had this mountain. I just ran across a photo of it. I must have had like 12, 15, I don't even know how many bins of Christmas stuff. And I realized the past few years prior, I hadn't really used hardly any of it. And then, so yeah, always evaluating, just because you have a space for it and you've always had it,
doesn't mean you always need to have it.
Is it serving you, or is it just creating a pain point for you? What is she doing?
I don't know, trouble. Got a kitten, Princess, and I gave her a reprieve from the kids by letting her stay in my room. But she's like getting into stuff, curious Georging it up. So I think, that's kind of one area that's very physical and practical and results. I want to say results and reflects, and like neither of those are the right words, and I didn't say either of them, but like it impacts like your daily life very in a very big way. And I think also it's thinking about like, emotionally and spiritually, when you're thinking as going into the end of the year, like what are things that maybe you've held on to that you need to let go of. So, being angry at someone is going to be, it's building a cage or prison, but it's for you, not for the person you're angry at. Right. So I think it's, finding ways to let go of hurts and forgive, and also if you have regrets of things that you've done, like, I think it's like, how can I let go of these things? How can I process and move forward from that? And then, even spiritually, I think I've got a shelf of Bible studies that all seem amazing that I haven't done. And they all sit there kind of hanging over my head. And so I think it's thinking about like, what are things that we're maybe doing to check a box, or, it's not a bad thing, like, right. But maybe it's just not right for your season. I think about, there's a time I really loved doing the women's Bible study at my church, and I did it for a year or two, and then it just got to the point where it's such a burden, and I really felt like there was this passion growing to do my own personal study, deep diving into scriptures and growing in knowledge. And Okay. You win some camera time. Meow meow. Here's Princess. Hi. Meow meow. But I had to recognize that, like, although it's not bad, it wasn't the
Right.
right fit for me. This wasn't where I was growing spiritually and where I needed to invest my time and intention. So I think, like, there's that aspect too of just thinking what things are in my life. And I hesitate to say it's like serving me because we don't exist for,
Right.
and everything else doesn't exist for us. But I think it's about being intentional about what we have in our lives so that we can better serve others and serve the Lord. And so, make sure that we're putting our emotions and our attentions on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And then relationally, I think about friendships maybe that have become a burden, or they're a negative influence. And you just recognize, like, I'm not in a place where I can invest in this because it's pulling me down. And I don't think you should burn bridges or be hateful, but I think that there is that intentionality of you only have so many hours in the day, and who are you going to invest them in?
Right.
So I think, like, even thinking about relationships, maybe there's ones that you put a lot of energy into that you recognize I need to pull back from and just put less energy into, less time and attention. And maybe there's some that you just really feel called to invest more in. Like, is there somebody like, this person's been on my radar and I can't seem to find the time for them, and maybe I'm supposed to be finding the time for them.
Right. Well, I had an old friend ask me yesterday, which I thought was very timely, because I knew we were going to be talking about this today. But she asked me, what is 2026 look like for me? Like, what do I have plans? And I said, I'm just kind of easing into it. I'm trying to be open. But so I think there's that place of maybe recognizing if you're in, and this comes to mind because I'm in that season of, I don't know that I'm emotionally in that or mentally in that headspace to really fully evaluate this past year on a objective level. Is just, I mean, don't put that pressure on yourself too. If you're not in that, I mean, we all get this idea that we have to be ready to hit go on January 1. We got to have our calendar ready. And it's just another day. And if it takes you a few months, I think the biggest thing is, seeking the Lord, and what He has for you, and just, mold these questions that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Thinking about them, but not putting that pressure on yourself that, okay, I have to figure this out. And I think that's true for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're in a hard season.
Right.
If you're not able to answer that question, that's okay. Maybe in March you're going to go, you know what? I just realized this is not working for me anymore. Yeah. And then you can make that change then.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think, January 1st, just today, it's just it's a good time as we recognize the calendar, turning and a new year beginning. It's a good opportunity to reflect. Sure. It's a good opportunity to evaluate, but, like, there can be a lot of pressure associated with January 1st, and it's just another day. It's just another Tuesday, guys.
Yeah.
So for sure, I think you can put too much pressure. This is something that can be done at any time, and really, it's a healthy thing to do regularly. More than annually. It's just that kind of that check-in of being intentional about, where I'm going and am I on track with where I want to be going.
Because it's a lot easier to correct course,
couple months
in than to at the end of the year be going, wow, I just really wasted a whole year.
Yeah.
Well, it's never, I don't think anything is ever wasted in our lives, but
and I think that
what it could have been.
Time has this funny way of passing.
Yes, it does.
And life has a funny way of pushing you along. And so these reflections, these evaluations, whether you do them quarterly, monthly, annually, It's just a moment to say, like, I'm still steering the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the river's still pushing me along, but I'm choosing which way I'm going to turn, where I'm going to head, you know? Um, so I think that that's really about just that, like, being intentional, because time is going to pass, and you don't want to wake up one day and realize, like, how I've wasted so much of my life just doing nothing, like
Yeah.
just spinning my wheels. So I think that those are, you know, important things to think about, is just the mental, the emotional, the relational. But you know, we wouldn't be the Rustic Girls if we didn't talk about creativity.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I think when you're, you know, thinking towards a new year, um, I like to think about what are things that I maybe wanted to learn, because that's really what this part is about, is reflecting. It's like, what did I want to do that I never got to, and do I still want to do it? Like, you know, goals and projects. I mean, there's a never ending list, right? Of the things I want to do, the projects, the skills, the whatever. I've had 2 dressers outside of my house for 2 years now, because I was going to flip them. And guys, they're still sitting out there, and they still will, because I still want to do it. That's going to be my goal for this next year, is to actually finish that project.
But on the flip side of that, I've deleted probably 100+ photos off my phone that were inspiration photos for me of projects that I wanted to do, and I look at them and I'm like this doesn't even serve my life anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm living very minimally now, very small space, and just making all this stuff. And I was in a different season too. I had a shop, and I had an outlet. You know, I didn't have to keep all the said projects either. I could pass them on, which, you know, I suppose you still can. You can just pass them on to someone. But
you could pass them on. You could also decide that maybe I like making, but I have too much stuff out around, and so maybe this year I want to look at doing markets and selling, or starting my own business, or so. I mean, I think it's just really about thinking about where you're at, and what are your goals, and what do you want, and you know, where are you being led to.
Right.
But I think it can be easy to become weighed down by all the, you know, Pinterest boards, or the screenshots, or the to-do lists. Maybe you bought something and you started it, and you're just like, I don't like it.
Sitting on a shelf, finish me. You didn't finish me.
I have like 4 different partially started crochet projects just sitting in my schoolhouse, because I'm like, I don't know. I get into it for like a day or two, and then I'm like, nah. So I think thinking about, like, you know, what things do I maybe have on my list, that I have had on my list, that maybe I don't want on my list anymore, and letting go and being okay with, like, because it's part of being creative, and being creative, because everyone is a creative, but part of being creative is trying new things, and making mistakes, and failing, and recognizing there's things I just don't like. Like, I love the idea of crocheting things so much. The reality of it, I don't like it that much. Like, if I could sit and just chain for hours, I like that, the doing something with my hands, but like the actual focusing and making something, not my cup of tea. So I think it's like recognizing that it's okay to try new things, and then decide, not for me. I don't love it, or I don't have a skill towards that. That's okay too. Like,
well, and I think, you know, sitting, you know, as you're talking about projects and you know, trying out new creative skills, I think this is a great time to sit down. You know, those things that maybe you've always wished you could do, or you've thought about taking a class, or going to a workshop or whatever, but you just never get around to it. You know, if you're thinking of that still, and you're thinking, wow, I'd really like to learn how to do watercolors, you know, then you can translate that over to your goals, and we'll get into that more.
That's next week. But it's
great,
figuring out what you want or don't want.
Right. It's really a great time to, you know, really look at those things, not just the stuff that's sitting in front of you, but the things that it's always been in the back of your mind, or you always wanted to garden, or you know, different things like that. So it's a good time to dream a little.
Yes, this is the time for sure. This is the all in the head part. So this is thinking about what things I want to let go of, but it's also thinking about what things do I want to hold on to, and what things maybe do I want to pull in, you know. because I mean, like we're going to talk about next week, is then it's creating the action plan, because
Right.
what is it? A goal without steps is just a dream, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
we'll
it's
find the good,
a
we'll find the
goal
quote.
is just a dream with steps.
Yeah.
But the idea being that it's really, this is the dreaming, and then it's putting it into action for the new year, so that at the end of next year, you're looking back, and there's less. That's kind of the idea, is there's always less.
Right.
Less things I'm letting go of, less things that I'm needing to, hey, meow, yeah. Less things that like need to shift and to pivot, because I've stayed on track more and more about like moving towards. And there's always going to be stuff, though.
Right.
Always.
Well, and like you said, life has a way of just like the river analogy. The water is a great analogy, because it will just carry us on downstream, and lost where I was going. Yeah, it'll just, yeah, I lost it.
Hey, stop it!
She is a big distraction over there.
She's like right in front of us, getting into something she shouldn't.
Go ahead.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's, you'll wake up and you've hit the wall.
Yeah. Whereas you're by sitting down and giving it some thought, you're curating it. You're like you said, you're steering it. And so if there's like stops you want to make along this, I want to stop and do this, and I want to stop and do this. But if you haven't thought that through,
then
you don't know where you want to stop, and you're like, oh wait,
I want to go there. Shoot.
So,
yeah, for sure. So, I don't know. I don't know that I have a ton, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts as you, maybe what are your kind of routines? You can't die, like we can't die at the same time. It doesn't work. What are your routines going into the end of the year? Like, what are, do you sit down with a journal? Do you sit down with your calendar or your camera roll? We're always a big fan of getting out of your space. So if you can go to like a coffee shop or a park or somewhere just that's a little bit separate, to be able to really just kind of step back and evaluate. I think that's always hey, that's mine. That's mine.
But it could be mine.
So I'd like to hear like everybody else's traditions, because I think that's the beauty of being in community, is we can feed off of each other.
Right.
And
well, yeah, because it inspires. Like I said, I listened to her thing, and some of it I'm like, I don't know about that, but I thought, I gleaned that from her. I was inspired by that, of like, oh, idea, like looking at your camera roll, because it really does tell the story of our life.
How did you spend your year?
So yeah, love to hear your
So that was, you said
Mel Robbins.
So it's a podcast, or is it YouTube?
It's on YouTube, but it's like a video podcast she does.
Sounds worth checking out.
It was definitely worth listening to. I got some other ideas from it, but she had like six things to make it, and she said that her and her husband have sat down and went through it's questions to ask yourself.
Okay, yeah.
And they've sat down like for, gosh, I don't remember how many years, like 20 years or something. They've sat down and done this every year, and then they started doing it with their kids, and it just really, turn that off.
She freaked out. She was like, "What was that?
What's that?" So
yeah. I think it's fun to glean off of each other. So we'd love to hear from you guys. What are your kind of routines, and maybe what are you thinking after you reflect? What are some things that maybe you want to pursue this year, or things you're choosing to let go of, or let us know in the comments. And we look forward to just slowly growing this to the point where we can actually go live. Because live chats are always way better.
It's more fun to interact together right in the moment.
It's true.
But yeah, and have your notes ready, of or your little mental notes
to head into next week, because we're going to talk about
dive
goals.
Into how to put them into action plan.
So if you haven't already, we'd super appreciate it if you liked and subscribed.
Yes, please.
so that
And
we
share
can
this
do
with a
this more.
friend.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. If it's been helpful to you and you think somebody, you know what,
You might
they
enjoy
were just
this.
talking about, that would be great too.
Yeah. Bye, friends.
Bye.